Is Prince Harry the Duke of Delusion? That's what so many people are asking after his recent interview with the Today Show and Hoda Kobt during the Invictus Games. Many people are wondering, due to his statements, how connected is Harry with reality? Does he even understand going on? He's talking about how he, faces burnout, even though, as far as we know, he doesn't do that much. And he's also talking about how he's wondering who's around the Queen. Is she being protected well enough? Because apparently Prince Harry is the only person who can protect the Queen from an ocean and 5,000 miles away. It is starting to get a little crazy and a little concerning. And so a lot of people are wondering what the heck is going on with Prince Harry. And this extends to Meghan too. They really seem to live in kind of an alternate reality where they are the most famous and important people on the face of the planet, deserving of every single security measure possibly imaginable. And so many people are wondering what the heck is going on with Harry. So we'll discuss some of his comments today. What do I think? Is Harry delusional, or is he just being gaslit to such an extent and manipulated that he just doesn't even have a firm grasp on reality anymore? So we'll discuss all of that today. And if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, hi, my name is Brittany, and we talk about everything related to royal. So that's news, gossip, fashion, television shows, even movies and history. We'll do it all here. Obviously, we're still mostly in the news sector and commentary, but we will get to all these things. And today, like I said, we're going to go over Harry's interview with the Today Show. And I will honestly say, I've done a lot of interviews myself. I've interviewed probably well over 100 people. Some of them some of them who are well known and some of them who are not. And I watched this whole interview. Obviously, they had other bits and clips, but I watched the most important part. It was a pretty bad interview, honestly. It wasn't like Hoda Kobt, no offense to her. She seems so giddy that she really it just was a really bad interview, in my opinion. It wasn't a very good one. And honestly, some of her questions were kind of, strange and weird. And one of the things that I will call her out for is that she says, well, the Queen says all the time that you make her laugh. Okay, show me one interview where the Queen said that. Show me one. Because I've looked. The Queen has never given a formal interview. Never in her life. So you're telling me she tells the news media all the time that Harry makes her laugh? No, that's just simply not true. So I would guess that most of these questions were fed to her by Harry's team. And honestly, they didn't make him look that good. And so I always wonder what the heck is going on with their PR efforts, because every time Harry opens his mouth, they dig themselves further into a hole. And this interview is absolutely no exception. And so to start off with, we'll look at this first answer that really raised a lot of eyebrows. And a lot of people were very frustrated by this, especially in the UK. And of course, the American media, which knows nothing about the monarchy. I watched this interview. Hoda knows nothing about the monarchy. You can tell she knows absolutely nothing. So take a look at this little clip.
Being with her, it was great. It was just so nice to see her. She's on great form. She's always got a great sense of humour with me, and I'm just making sure that she's protected and got the right people around.
So in this interview, Harry mentions that he wants to make sure she is protected and the right people are around her. So the question is, who does Harry not like that's around her? That's what a lot of people are asking. They're like, wait, what? And it's also a strange question because Harry voluntarily abandoned her legacy, her country, her institution to go to America with Meghan Markle and try to make $100 million. So it's kind of like, how dare he question who is around her if they are, quote unquote, protecting her, because really he has no right to do that anymore. Obviously he is still her grandson, nobody's denying that, but he has essentially abandoned her son, her grandson, and her country in order to try to make it in Hollywood with Meghan. So many people were kind of like, how dare you even suggest that? And people are wondering too, is he calling out his brother and father, so that's Prince Charles and Prince William, for not protecting her, not being the best influence around her? What is his beef? Because he's 5,000 miles away. He is 5,000 miles away. So, and it's like, and Harry and Meghan have made this great point of trying to ingratiate themselves to the Queen, try to make sure the public knows, no negative comment about the Queen ever. We love the Queen, she's perfect, and no human being is perfect, A. And B, it always comes across a little ingenuous to me, because it's like they're trying to ingratiate themselves to her, either to in order to secure his inheritance, maybe an invitation to the Jubilee that's been suggested, or to secure him and his children in their place in the line of succession, even though his father or his brother could like undo it like that. And so he's not. And even when Hoda later asked him about, his father and his brother, of course, he dodged that question entirely. And so it's like he's still not talking to the two heirs who will have much a greater impact on his life eventually than the queen, who is in the twilight of her years. So the Telegraph has suggested that who Harry was really talking about is Sir Edward Young, who is the Queen's private secretary. And so when the whole Brexit debacle was going on and Harry and Meghan were trying to get their way in terms of having this half in, half out royal presence, it was kind of the Queen's private secretary, and I think in coordination with probably Prince William and Prince Charles, who denied Harry a one-on-one with his grandmother. And so this was with it when all those negotiations were going on. So I think the idea was to prevent Harry from trying to influence his grandmother into going down this path that most knew would lead to ruin, because he is her grandson. Sometimes, family members, it's harder to say no to them. And so the private secretary really helped, Prince Charles and Prince William deny this visit between Harry and his grandmother in order to make sure that the negotiations for Brexit went the appropriate way. And I think many are suggesting that's who Harry is truly mad at. And that's what he means by the right people. But again, Harry's not there. He is not there. So it's kind of like, how dare he suggest that the right people aren't around her, or that he needs to evaluate them when he's 5,000 miles away. And so it's like, what delusional world are you living in where you think at this point you even have a right to speak into that? Because he's not there. And we know that he supposedly calls her all the time, and him and Meghan are desperate to keep in contact with her, but there's the rest of his family as well. And so, and they're all around her. Her Majesty got to spend Easter with Prince William, Catherine, their children, Princess Beatrice, the Sophie and Edward and their children, and Zara Phillips and Mike Tyndall and their kids. And so we all saw them go to church together. Beatrice did not, and so she may have gone with Her Majesty to her private chapel for service on Easter. That may be why we didn't see her. And so, since you have the rest of the royal family around, that Harry seems to think that he's the one who needs to protect her. The rest of the family is doing that, Harry. You're the only one who's not. You're the only one making actually her life more difficult every time you open her mouth. So what is he talking about? Well, again, the Sussexes live in their own little twilight zone. So there is that. So second, guys, check out this next clip Prince Harry was talking about when he mentions that, he thinks of the United States as his home now, not the UK.
Home for me now is for the time being, it's in the States. And it feels that way as well.
So this comment was a really, really stupid one for Harry to make. He brought up again the security situation, and he said that Santa Barbara now feels more like his home. The United States feels more like his home than the UK, which torpedoes his entire security argument to the Home Office. So as many of us know, maybe you don't, that Harry is suing Her Majesty's government. So he's suing his grandmother. So even though he feels like he needs to protect her, he's also suing her, technically, because it is her government, ergo he is suing her. Anyways, and so he is suing because he doesn't have security protection when he is in the United Kingdom, unless it is for a large family event. So this would have included his grandfather's service of Thanksgiving, which he refused to attend. And it would also include the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, because, there is a lot of attention on the royal family there. But he wants to, every time he comes to the UK, he wants that level of security, which in my opinion, he does not need. He is sixth in line to the throne. At this point, he is constitutionally irrelevant. He'll probably be stripped of his Counselor of State status at some point. And so really, Harry at this point has no authority or even reason to demand this level of security. He's just not that important anymore. I know that hurts his ego, but that's the truth. And so when he said that, it was just like, dude, you just torpedoed your entire, because as part of his court case, he said he needs this, he wants to visit the UK and he needs this security because the UK is his home. Well, Harry, if the UK is not your home and it's Santa Barbara, you don't need that security. So he just torpedoed his entire argument. And I believe it was this instance that Harry told Hoda Kobt that he would, get in a lot of trouble for, and that, people would have a field day. And people did. But that he didn't realize his comment that basically slighted the rest of his family about the Queen's protection and those who are around her, that he didn't understand that that was more important than this statement to a certain extent, shows that he just doesn't have a firm grasp on what's actually going on and why people are upset with him. And even in the court case, in some of his filings, because he's suing the Daily Mail for publishing information regarding this security story, he was talking about how, people are writing terrible things about him in the Daily Mail's comment section. Like, he literally, has counted how many comments there are, and the vast majority of them are negative, but he doesn't understand why. And again, it's this weird Sussex delusion thing where Harry really has no idea why nobody likes him anymore. He really doesn't, which is quite sad because it is very, very obvious. He has really fallen for everything Meghan has said, hook, line, and sinker. And I'll go over this interview just a little bit with one thing he said, but he was interviewed by these two Dutch kids. And there was one point in his answer that I'm like, I don't even understand what you're saying, because it was kind of this word salad nonsense. It really didn't mean anything. And he's just, you can just tell it's kind of Meghan's influence there. And he really just does not understand what is going on anymore. All right, guys, and one of the third things he said, which was kind of strange, is he was talking about burnout and how, it's something that he may struggle with at some point. Sorry, I can't help but laugh because I just don't know what he's burned out about, because he doesn't do anything. So check out this clip.
And it's a dangerous one, because I need to make sure that I don't have burnout, but is trying to make the world a better place for my kids. Otherwise, what's the point in bringing kids into this world? All
right, guys. So, looking at this clip, again, I take issue with this because I feel burnout because I'm doing this channel. I still have a full-time job. I, have family commitments, friend commitments, those sorts of things. And so to try to cram this all in, this video will take me probably, and I edit pretty fast, guys. This video will still probably take me about 2 hours to edit. It's going to take me about 45 minutes to record, probably, because I, mess up. I go back and I change things, or what if my battery pack runs out or my card runs out, something happens, and then I can't finish, and then I have to go do it. It's a whole rigmarole. So I feel burnout because sometimes I work even on weekdays till 12 at night to make sure I can get a video together, because I really do enjoy this and I want to make this work. But Harry talking about burnout just sounds to me incredibly both arrogant and delusional. He has a chief impact officer job, which I'm sure with BetterUp, which I'm sure does not require a lot of effort for him. They signed him up because he's a good face for it, they think. Although honestly, he needs probably more help than anybody they're trying to help. So they signed him up for this, and he has their Archewell thing. But Archewell, what does Archewell do? None of us know what Archewell, what does Archewell do? He wore a hat that said Archewell. What does it do? It only had $50,000 in donations in a year, which is really pathetic given the high platform Harry and Meghan have. So what in the heck? I don't even know what Archewell does. It kind of releases a statement every once in a while. They kind of speak nonsense. And so, they have a couple of partnerships when it comes to misinformation. But to me, misinformation is always about censorship. It's not about actual misinformation. They really want to censor people they don't like. They probably don't like this channel. But I believe in free speech, and that anybody should be able to say for the most part what they would like to and what they believe. And, you'll receive blowback for that, and that's kind of life. So anyways, I was just wondering, what is the burnout for? Now, obviously they still had their Spotify deal, but Harry and Meghan were going to do their Spotify thing together. Now it's only Meghan, so that's not something less Harry is doing. We all went, does Harry have a podcast about Invictus games? That would actually be a good idea because he can continue it, but we've had no comment about it. So and they're shooting things for Netflix, but they don't have to do I do, all the editing, posting, writing. I do everything for my channels, because I have Instagram, I have Twitter. And so it's Harry has people to do all the nuts and bolts for him as well. So basically he just has to show up, talk, and everybody else takes care of the rest. So what is this burnout he's talking about? Because he just really doesn't do that much. Maybe he just doesn't have the large capacity to do a lot. I don't know. But anyways, again, it sounded like it's, you know, it's trying to make him sound relevant, but also makes him sound incredibly delusional, that he does not understand real people and real life. And I think that's a problem for Harry and Meghan, because they're trying to allegedly appeal to a large segment of the population, but I think their support dwindles every time they open their mouths, especially him. Okay, guys, so for this next instance, listen to what he's talking about with Princess Diana, because I do find this rather interesting. So check this out.
Yeah, very much so. I didn't tell him all the stuff that happened, but certainly that this is, you know, Grandma Diana, and we've got a couple of photos up in the house.
In these moments, do you ever feel your mom's presence?
Yeah, no, for me, it's constant. It has been over the last 2 years, more so than ever before. It's almost as though she's done her bit with my brother, and now she's very much like helping me. Got him set up, now she's helping me set up. I feel her presence in almost everything that I do now.
Okay, so if you listen to this, I find this kind of troubling and a little strange. Obviously, I've never lost my mom, and you know, I have lost family members though, and so you just, you know, there is a process of grieving, there is a process of remembering them. You want to remember them, you know, there's a period of remembrance, and that is very, very important. But what strikes me as odd is that Harry is very focused on his mother, but not his brother and his father. And why this is potentially problematic, I feel like, is because Harry is putting a lot of emphasis that his mother, who is dead, who cannot talk, who cannot interact with him, is still, you know, somebody basically having a greater impact on his life than his father and his brother, who are alive. And perhaps that's not the best way to describe it, but what I'm kind of getting at is that Harry, I think, is much more focused on his mother, is because his mother doesn't talk back. So his mother won't tell him, hey, maybe you're making a mistake here. Maybe this isn't the right thing to do. Maybe you should rethink this. She's not able to give him counsel. So she's really just a saint and an image that has no kind of impact on his everyday life, unlike his brother and his father, who can say, and who did say, especially in William's instance, I really think you should slow down with Meghan. And so that, you know, I think Harry is overly focused on his mother in part, and he's sanctified her to such an extent, is because she is the only one in his life that's not saying, well, pump the brakes, rethink this, what are you doing? You know, da-da-da-da-da. She is basically just this kind of, you know, she can basically tell him whatever he wants to hear. She's an echo chamber because she's not there to actually talk to him and physically interact with him. And obviously, I'm not saying remember your mother, commemorate, you know, her loss. That is really important, but she passed away 25 years ago. If you're putting more emphasis on somebody who's dead rather than people who are actually alive, like what happens when your father dies and maybe you never patch things up? You know, do you all of a sudden sanctify your father because, again, he can't, you know, respond to you? I'm not sure, but I would say this to me is kind of, you know, I worry for Harry. I honestly do, because to me, this just is a little concerning. But, you know, let me know what you think. How do you process grief? Because everybody does do it differently. But I feel like ever since Meghan came into the picture, Harry is very much using his mother as an excuse either not to do things, not to go along with things, justifying his behavior, even though I don't think he has the full appreciation for who his mother was, unlike William, who saw both her good side and her bad side, and doesn't use her as a crutch, but instead uses her as a way to impact others. And so I think that's a really important distinction there. And I think William has coped in a very healthy way, and Harry is coping in a very unhealthy way, in my personal opinion. Obviously, people can disagree, but that is my opinion. And for this last little bit, Harry did an interview with a couple of Dutch kids, which was really adorable. And this is where he used the word salad, like one of his answers. I was at the end, I was like, I don't even know what you really said. Because he said words, but they never made not a ton of sense. But anyways, so he met with these children, and he said something that a lot of people are like, really, Harry? So check this out.
What is your wish for Archie and Lilibet?
To grow up in a better world. To grow up in a fairer world, a safer world, a more equal world. It's not going to be easy, but I will never, ever, ever rest until I, as a parent, have at least tried to make the world a better place for them.
All right, guys. So Archie and Lily, they deserve a more equal world. But they live in a $15 million mansion. So do you think we all deserve $15 million mansions? Or is he even talking about, well, William's kids got titles. My children need titles too. That's only fair. Again, it comes across as this delusional thing because it's like, what is your definition of equal? There's like, I don't know how many, but, several, I think 100,000 homeless people in California. So should you guys live on the streets, for equity? Are you going to open up your $15 million home and take in these homeless people? Because, equity, you got to be equal. But you're not equal, and you're fundamentally not equal because you are a prince. Your children are in the line of succession to the British monarchy for right now. They may be stripped of that at some point. If you really take off your family enough, that may actually happen. But and again, it just comes across as kind of delusional and strange. It's like, what do you think like an equal world looks like? Because if it's an equal world, I would love to live in a $15 million mansion, spend like $65,000 on 3 days worth of clothing. Wouldn't that be awesome? Like, we'd all love to live like that. We'd all love, just first class would be awesome on an airplane, but we don't. And I think there's something else to understand as well, which is that fundamentally, because our world is broken, I believe, I'm a Christian, I believe our world is sinful, ergo, there will never be equity. Equity is a dream. Equity is a fantasy. Equity is a delusion, because nobody gets exactly what they want, and people have different abilities. Some people will work at McDonald's, and that's, the extent of what they can do. Some people are, Elon Musk. And should Elon Musk go to work in McDonald's because, equity has to be fair? No, he's a brilliant entrepreneur. Looking at this, Harry just doesn't sound like he's living in this fantasy. He's not really living in reality more. He's living in the Matrix. He's living in this fantasy world that, him and Meghan have kind of created for themselves. And he's really trying to push, again, this equity thing, which doesn't totally make any sense given the life he leads. Does he want to live in an average house in California that's not like, protected 24/7 by a billion security guards and all these sorts of things? Like, he really just isn't living in reality anymore. But they're still, advocating for equality, but they have no clue what that means. Every time Harry opens his mouth, I really question not only his intelligence, but, Meghan's, like their whole teams. What is the PR strategy for a prince going, I want us to live all in a more equal world? Well, if we live in an equal world, you're not Prince Harry, you're just Harry. That's the truth. You're not the Duke of Sussex, you're just Harry. But yet he refuses to drop the Duke of Sussex title. Even in the Invictus Games, some of their tweets, they called him the Duke, capital in the Duchess, capital, and they capitalized the T there as well. So they're really shoving these royal titles down our throat. He's also saying we really want equity, we really want, paid family leave and all these sorts of things. So they're getting political yet still want to be royals. And so I think this whole delusion is kind of going around as Harry and Meghan have no clue what they want to do, but they still want to be royal. And they still want to be treated as if they're special and royal, but yet they don't want to actually be royal, which requires self-service. It requires sacrifice. It requires doing charity without financial benefits. Because Harry and Meghan have turned the Invictus Games into their own Harry and Meghan show. Meghan wore 65 grand worth of outfits. Does she have to do that? No, but she wanted to, and she did. And it made the Invictus Games actually look bad. So Harry and Meghan should really be retrospective on themselves, like really take stock in what you're actually doing. Because I think Harry and Meghan right now have no grasp on reality. Probably Meghan has a better grasp on it than Harry, but every time he opens his mouth, people question his sanity and his intelligence. So really, my suggestion to the two of them is to please stop talking. Stop talking. Every time you do, like, him saying that the First Amendment is bonkers. So he wants this to be his country, yet he wants to completely destroy the First Amendment of the Constitution, which actually is how this channel is established, is free speech. But he doesn't want people to have free speech. He wants them to have his speech. And so Harry and Meghan, again, just don't have a good grasp on it. Harry especially. And honestly, the American news media as well. Hoda did not follow up on the questions like she should have. It was a pretty bad interview, in my opinion. And so I just think this was really just kind of a disaster. Well, guys, let me know what you think about this video. I just thought this was super interesting. And I've done an article as well about kind of the Sussex delusions. And I really think Harry and Meghan live in a fantasy of their own creation and don't know like how bad sometimes what they do is. And so it's just really, really sad in my opinion. And it's sad for the royal family because I think they have to deal with the aftermath of kind of these crazy comments. And, you know, Harry says, well, I want to be back in. Well, Harry, show us that you are trustworthy. You know, that's what his family's thinking. Show us you won't throw us under the bus the first chance you get. Because supposedly he was invited to the Jubilee, but after this interview, I wonder if that invitation has been rescinded. Because although Her Majesty is a deeply devout religious Christian woman and believes in forgiveness, you know, it's hard when you can't really trust somebody yet. And Harry hasn't really taken any accountability for his side of anything. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think. I hope I hit the right beats here. But I look forward to seeing you again really, really soon. We got some great content planned. So again, feel free to subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you again soon. Bye.